And some new details tonight about potential trouble at the U.S. border when marijuana is legalized here. Not only are Canadians who use marijuana at risk of being turned back, a senior U.S. customs official told news site Politico they may also reject people who work or even invest in the weed business. Remember, it's still illegal under U.S. federal law, even if some states allow it. So officials say they have the right to refuse entry. And legalization here in Canada is coming fast, less than a month away now, which means it's go time for companies scrambling to find employees who are qualified to grow their product. And you might be surprised to learn there's a school in Ontario that's looking to help. This month, Niagara College launched its brand new commercial cannabis production program, and Aaron Saltzman was there for day one of pot school.
It looks like a prison, protected by chain link fence and barbed wire, closed circuit cameras, and a serious looking security system. But this is actually a classroom. It's the teaching lab for Niagara College's new cannabis production program. They call it the Cannabunker. This is the first day of classes and the media is here, but a last-minute regulatory snag means there aren't any cannabis plants yet.
If someone can cut 2 of the plants off so we just have the soil, that would be very good.
So for today's photo op, Professor Bill McDonald has them using the remnants of houseplants.
Just because if it goes on TV and we're using poinsettias, it's like, seriously? I thought you were teaching cannabis.
They are. This is the first post-secondary commercial cannabis production program in Canada, according to the college. Clearly a bit of a challenge to set up when the subject matter doesn't become legal until 6 weeks after school starts. But the dean says the college didn't want to wait.
The demand is there for our graduates, too.
Vivian Kennard says legalization has created a labor crunch. Well, what better place for someone to get hands-on experience with weed than a college campus?
They're not being taught theoretically. They're not being taught by simulation. They are actually being taught with real hands-on in the workplace experiences while they're still a student.
I never thought 5 years ago that we would be here in this classroom starting a course on commercial cannabis production.
There is a classroom component where students will learn about things like regulatory and trade requirements, but this is mainly a course that will teach these students how to become very good at growing pot.
So how did people react when you told them you wanted to grow weed?
There were many reactions across the board. You know, some people still say I'm studying horticulture to their friends, which is fine. I think there is still a lot of growth in terms of how people view this kind of science. But at the end of the day, it is a science. You know, we are growing plants, and in a lot of ways, medicinal cannabis has helped many people.
Elizabeth Foley has an honors degree in biology from Western University. She was one of hundreds of applicants. Only 24 students got in. Student John Skilnick is an ex-cop.
Could you have imagined all those years ago working as a Mountie that you would be growing weed one day?
No, not at all. I did have to reconcile with myself the whole idea of legalization, having been in the RCMP. As I thought about it, I sort of did reconcile that if this is an opportunity to do things right, and I think in order to do them right, the industry has to bring cannabis into the mainstream, and we have to change the perception of cannabis use.
Here is where the jobs are. This nearly 50,000 square meter greenhouse complex is owned by Can Trust, a medical marijuana producer that is now ramping up production in advance of legalized recreational use.
Are you hiring right now?
Oh, unstopping. Yep, the hiring process happens all the time. So every week it's a new head count.
This is an industrial operation, but also a meticulous, even clinical process, with a small army of white-suited workers carefully cultivating plants and creating customized strains.
We operate a very technical grow, so it can be likened to a Ferrari. And everybody thinks they can drive a Ferrari, but of course you get behind the wheel of a Ferrari and you're going to spin it out pretty quickly unless you know what you're doing. And that's what we have here, is we have a Ferrari of a cultivation system, and it takes trained operators in order to make it work.
And that's just the grow side. There's also marketing and distribution, compliance and quality control, research and product development, which is why other schools are also starting pot programs. Here at the University of Guelph, they're laying out the footprint for a building designed specifically for weed research.
This is where the new facility will go?
Yeah, this is the new facility gonna be.
Professor Yubin Zhang says they're probably about 2 years away from their own cannabis program here, but licensed producers are already knocking on his door.
I frequently get phone calls. Yubin, do you have any graduate students? We want them.
They need them. CanTrust is expanding, doubling the size of this facility, and that's just the beginning.
Currently, we're shipping to around 45,000 clients in the medical system and looking forward to being able to service 10 times that in the non-medical marketplace.
Making pot no longer a sideline, but a career, because growing weed just isn't what it used to be. Aaron Saltzman, CBC News, Vineland, Ontario.